In 1912, a wedding photo seemed completely normal until someone noticed something strange about the groom's hands. Welcome back. Today, we're diving into one of the creepiest surprises found in an old photograph. What started as a typical archival project turned into something that still unsettles experts to this day. Before we get started, if you like mysterious stories and curious history, feel free to like this video. And by the way, I'm working on a new channel focused on unsolved mysteries from all over the world. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. Now let me ask you, have you ever seen an old photo that just felt off? That's exactly what happened when historians took a closer look at a 1912 wedding photo. What they discovered in the groom's hand would completely change the way this picture is remembered. In fall 2019, Millbrook, Massachusetts was already colder than usual. Sarah Chin, a digital archivist at the New England Historical Society, was reviewing a collection of donated photographs from the estate of Elalina Whitmore, who had lived to be 103. Most of the photos were what you'd expect: stiff portraits, faded landscapes, and a few random snapshots. But one picture made Sarah pause, a wedding portrait, in near-perfect condition. It showed a young couple at what looked like St. Augustine's Church, a familiar building that still stands today. The bride, Margaret Whitmore, wore a detailed silk dress and smiled brightly. Her groom, Thomas Aldridge, stood beside her in a sharp black suit, his hand resting gently on hers. Everything in the photo looked happy and traditional. Beautiful, Sarah said quietly as she scanned it using new high-resolution equipment, which was designed to reveal fine details that old photos might hide, things like tiny textures or damage. But as the scanner ran, Sarah noticed something odd. Despite being more than 100 years old, the photo looked almost new, no yellowing, no major fading. She made a note: exceptional condition, possibly stored with special care. Once the scan finished, Sarah opened the image on her computer and zoomed in, starting with their faces. Margaret's image was sharp and clear. But when Sarah zoomed in on Thomas, something seemed off. His smile looked real, but his eyes didn't match. They weren't damaged, but the expression seemed wrong. It looked more like fear or worry than joy. She zoomed out to check his whole figure, and that's when she saw it, something small, easy to miss. His right hand, the one hanging at his side, had markings. Not tattoos, which would have been scandalous in 1912, but more like scratches. They looked intentional, possibly symbols or some kind of pattern etched into his skin. Sarah called over her supervisor, Dr. James Morrison, a respected historian with decades of experience in New England's past. "You need to see this," she said. He leaned in and studied the screen, his brow furrowed. "Zoom in." Sarah did, and the markings became clearer. They weren't random at all. They formed a star-like shape, with lines and symbols branching out. Whoever made them had done so with precision and purpose. "I've never seen anything like this," Dr. Morrison said. "It looks like he was hiding them. But why have them at all, especially at your wedding?" Sarah checked the photo's donation records. It had come from Elalina Whitmore's estate, Margaret's daughter. Born in 1916, for years after the photo was taken. So Margaret lived a full life, Dr. Morrison noted. What about Thomas? Sarah quickly searched through historical databases and found nothing. No death certificate, no burial record. After 1913, Thomas Aldridge completely vanished from the public record. Dr. Morrison looked puzzled. People didn't just disappear back then. Not without some kind of trace. They both sat quietly for a moment, realizing they may have stumbled on something big. What looked like a joyful wedding photo had just revealed a disturbing mystery that had been hidden for more than a century. Sarah printed a close-up of the hand and pinned it to the board. "We need to find out who Thomas Aldridge really was." Outside, the October wind howled, and a door slammed somewhere in the building. But Sarah and Dr. Morrison were already deep into the mystery. The next morning, frost coated the windows of the Historical Society. Sarah hadn't slept much. She couldn't stop thinking about the markings. She arrived early and found Dr. Morrison already there, surrounded by old newspapers and town records. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked, handing him a coffee. "Not a minute," he replied. I've been reading the Millbrook Gazette from 1912 and 1913. Thomas shows up a few times before the wedding. He was a banker, respected in town. Then, after February 1913, nothing. Sarah pulled up the high-res image of the markings. I've been researching the symbols. They're not religious or cultural, but I did find this. She showed a sketch from an 1889 journal by Reverend Josiah Blackwood, a traveling preacher who claimed to have seen devil's marks in New England. The sketch looked nearly identical to the ones on Thomas's hand. Dr. Morrison compared the two. They're nearly the same. But Blackwood's writings were dismissed. Most people thought he was just unstable. Maybe, Sarah replied. But what if he wasn't making it up? Their conversation was interrupted when Martha Hendris arrived. At 85, she was the Society's most senior volunteer and knew nearly everything about Millbrook's past. I heard you two are looking into the Aldrich family, she said. What can you tell us? Dr. Morrison asked. My grandmother knew Margaret. Said she was kind but always carried a certain sadness. She never remarried after Thomas disappeared. So people knew he vanished? Sarah asked. Oh yes, Martha nodded. The family said he went west for business and never came back. But my grandmother told me Margaret would sometimes talk in her sleep, calling for Thomas to come back from the dark. Was there ever anything strange about Thomas before he left? Dr. Morrison asked. There were whispers, Martha said. Some said he was seen walking in the woods late at night. Others said he visited a woman on the edge of town, Constance Gray. People called her eccentric. Sarah quickly searched for Constance Gray. Martha added, she died in the 1918 flu pandemic. Her house still stands, or what's left of it. Locals say it's haunted, but kids say that about every old building. Over the next few hours, they built a rough timeline of Thomas Aldrich's life. Born in 1886, wealthy Boston family, Harvard graduate. He moved to Millbrook in 1910 for a banking job. He met and married Margaret, and their wedding was a major town event. But starting in late 1912, things changed. Thomas started missing work. People saw him heading into the woods. And bank records showed strange notes and missed meetings. I found this too, Sarah said, opening a police report from January 1913, 1 month before Thomas vanished. It described vandalism at St. Augustine's Church. Someone had carved symbols into the pews. The drawing in the report looked eerily like the ones on Thomas's hand. He went back to the church, Dr. Morrison said. But why? Martha stood to leave. If you really want answers, talk to Father O'Brien. He has access to the old church records. And ask about the sealed crypt they found under the sanctuary in the 60s. After she left, Sarah and Dr. Morrison sat silently. The wedding photos still glowed on the screen. A smiling couple frozen in time, just months before the groom vanished. We need a plan, Dr. Morrison said. Tomorrow, we go to the church. Then Constance Gray's cottage. Follow the clues. Sarah nodded, but the more she stared at those strange marks, the more uneasy she felt. Her training told her everything had a logical explanation, but something deeper told her this mystery might be different. Before leaving, she searched one last time through genealogical records. Thomas and Margaret had no children listed in 1913 or 1914. Margaret's daughter, Ella, was born in 1916. The birth certificate didn't name a father. Jim, she said as Dr. Morrison was putting on his coat. I think Ella wasn't Thomas's daughter. He froze in the doorway, face serious. Then the real question is, what happened during those missing years? As they locked up for the night, they didn't see the figure across the street, someone who had been waiting a long time for that photo to resurface. The next morning, under a heavy sky, Sarah and Dr. Morrison stood outside St. Augustine's Church. The old stone building towered over them, silent and imposing. They were greeted by Father O'Brien, a young priest with sharp eyes and a calm presence. Martha called ahead, he said. Said you're researching the Aldrich family. I've pulled some records you might want to see. Inside, the church was dim, with colored light streaming through stained glass. Their footsteps echoed as they followed the priest to a small office. We've kept detailed records, he explained, showing them old books of baptisms, weddings, and deaths. And sometimes, more unusual things. Sarah showed him the enhanced photo. His expression tightened. "You've seen these markings before," Dr. Morrison said. The priest nodded slowly. They found them during renovations in the 1960s. Inside the church, the crypt walls were covered in the same strange symbols found on Thomas's hand. Before resealing it, workers photographed everything. Father O'Brien handed over a folder of black and white images. They showed a small stone chamber lined with disturbing, deliberate markings. "That's not all," he said. "They found bones. Scattered, not buried. As if someone didn't want a body left intact." "Do we know who it was?" Sarah asked. "No. Early 1900s. We cremated and buried them quietly." He also showed fragments of a burned journal. The handwriting was frantic, Thomas's. "The bargain can't be undone. Margaret must never know. The marks burn. I tried to escape, but the roots run too deep. Darkness calls and I answer. Forgive me. The church may hold me, but it can't contain what I've become." Dr. Morrison leaned over. He wasn't just scared. He was trying to stop something, or himself. Father O'Brien looked grim. "There's an old story. A group in the woods near town. Called themselves Seekers of Hidden Knowledge." "Constance Gray led them?" Sarah asked. "She did. People say they made deals for power, with things not meant to be named. He led them to the back pews. We found symbols here in 1913. Had to replace the wood." Sarah ran her hand along the smooth surface. She imagined Thomas, alone in the dark, carving warnings, or pleas. "Can we see the crypt?" Morrison asked. "No," O'Brien replied. But workers saw something else, scratches on the ceiling stone. Like something tried to claw its way out. Later, Sarah and Morrison hiked to the ruins of Constance's cottage. Overgrown and half-collapsed, its foundation still stood. Symbols were carved into the stones. "She marked this place," Sarah said. Inside, they found a stone circle in the floor. In the back, words had been scratched into the wall. "Thomas, the compact is sealed. Payment due at the turning of the season." Beneath that, in different handwriting, "He thinks love will save him. He's wrong. The old ones don't forgive broken promises." They left in silence. Sarah's phone buzzed. Martha had found something, Ella Lenina's diary. Back at the archive, Martha handed Sarah a small leather-bound journal. Most entries were normal. One stood out. "Mother is dying. She speaks of father, not the man who raised me, but Thomas. She says he returned the night I was conceived. Not human anymore, but still him. She says I have his eyes. When I look in the mirror, are my eyes normal?" Dr. Morrison paled. "Thomas came back. But as what?" Martha nodded. "Margaret never took off her wedding ring. Said she was waiting." The next day, Patricia Morrison arrived. She was Ella Lenina's daughter, and Morrison's cousin. "When James told me," she said, "I knew it was time." She brought photos, letters, and a journal with a strange dark cover. "My mother told me to destroy these," she said. "I couldn't." The photos showed Margaret over the years, always beautiful, always sad. In some, the edges blurred as if reality itself was bending. She said Thomas never really left, Patricia said. Sometimes the camera caught him. Sarah examined the journal. Inside were Thomas's entries. December 3, 1912. The ritual worked. I saw things no man should. December 15th. The marks burn. She says they're gifts. They feel like chains. January 8th. Margaret doesn't know. I'm not the man she married anymore. February 10th. 3 days. I'll seal myself in the crypt. Better to die than lose myself. February 13th. This is my last entry. Margaret, remember me, not what I become. A final entry followed, shaky and broken. February 14th, 1916. Found way back. Not man. Not thing. Margaret knows. Still loves. Child is bridge. Thomas sleeps. I wake. The pact continues. Patricia gave Sarah one last letter, Margaret's. He came back. Not as he was, but something between. For one night, the man I loved returned. What we created was born of love, and something older. Elena carries both bloodlines. If she begins to change, no, it's not evil. It's evolution. Sarah stared at the wedding photo glowing on her monitor. The marks on Thomas's hand weren't just symbols. They were warnings. And something, was still watching. That night, the photo changed again. Shadows moved. Thomas's shape twisted, less human, more dimensional. Around him, the faint outlines of Constance and her followers reappeared. Then, everything settled. Patricia stood, collecting her things. Some doors stay open, even when you think you've closed them. She handed Sarah a silver locket. Inside was a miniature of the photo, and a strand of hair that shimmered, black, silver, and something else entirely. She wore this every day, Patricia said, to remember him, and to accept what he became. After she left, Sarah and Morrison sat in silence. What do we do now? She asked. We document, Morrison said. But maybe, not everything.